Lance from the Serfs sought to further paint TYT host Anna Kasparian as a right-wing grifter by posting a screenshot from a recent video she did on Portuguese drug policy. So he tweeted out the following, and I apologize, folks, for the size of the graphic here. I had to pull these graphics off my phone on my personal Twitter account because the Serfs, along with Olaimi Olurin, have in fact blocked the DueDissidence account. So I had to use my burner, which I didn't intend as a burner. I just intended as a personal account.
You should have told me because they haven't blocked me, I don't think.
Oh, and you have Twitter on your computer,
because I
right?
never interact with them. So
that's true. That's true. So you could have pulled these. But anyway, it's a little small, but it's all right. We'll get the point, right? He tweets out this screenshot of Anna's recent video. Got to be liberating not to have to pretend anymore, right? And if you can see the screenshot of that video, she's talking about Portuguese decriminalization of drugs has backfired. So he's obviously just trying to, repaint her as this sort of, Karen type, which, is not totally inaccurate in certain contexts, but it is inaccurate, pardon me, in this context. Because she tweets back, she says, listen, I get that a dishonest and untalented clown like Lance needs to distract. True. Yes, indeed. No lies there. Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
No lies detected.
No lies detected. Listen, I get that a dishonest and untalented clown like Lance needs to distract from his embarrassing debate with Tim Pool. This is a very Trumpian tweet, in a good way. I understand his embarrassing debate with Tim Pool.
His failed debate.
His failed debate was a disaster.
So they never saw anything like it.
Never seen it.
They had to call in a cleaning crew to get the blood off the floor.
Exactly. So he's going to post a screenshot of a story I covered and mischaracterize what I said. Here's the full video. So she posts the link to the full video that she did on Portuguese drug policy, which, Russ, you pulled a clip from. We're going to play actually two clips, but do you want to set this clip up? Because once again, just like in the Vanguard section, this was a 20-minute video. We weren't going to play the whole thing, but we can explain the thrust of it and then show clips that sort of back up what we're saying here.
Okay, so throughout, for the first 5 minutes of this video, she does nothing but praise what they did in Portugal, which was to essentially decriminalize drugs, at least in terms of enforcement, needle exchanges. But part of that was they put a lot of money into offering, they didn't force them into it, but into offering rehabilitation services. Now, later on, they cut that funding by, it looked like 80 to 90%. And after they cut that funding, with what little they had, the government could not afford to offer those services. So they subcontracted it out to private organizations. At that point, what had been a great result, she actually shows that on TYT, they were covering this favorably. She showed a clip of Cenk back in 2012 talking about, I think it cut down on drug addiction and rehab service needs by 50%.
Yeah, by half, yeah.
By half. So they were doing nothing but praising this. Her criticism was you can't have the needle exchange and handing out the crack pipes without those services. And when you turn them over to private services, they're not going to do them the way the government will, which is that is about as left an argument as you can make, right?
Right. It's an argument against neoliberalism, against bureaucratic, outsourcing of essential government services to, government adjacent actors with their own agendas and own incentives.
So to be clear, there is no honest way you could have misinterpreted that video. She's very clear from the beginning. It's not like, well, maybe he just watched the beginning and didn't want. No. She spends the first 5 minutes of that video praising the program as it originally existed. This is just a complete smear job. There is absolutely no kind interpretation.
Right. So here's just a couple of quick clips from this.
Just pause for a second. I want to reiterate that. I do not want to go back to war on drug war on drugs, like overly punitive policies, they did not work. They were not good. I do think that we can save this model, but we need to make some tweaks.
Okay, so that's, I mean, like I said, you don't have to agree with the tweaks, but she's clearly not saying lock them up and throw away the key. And in this clip that Russell picked out, she talks about how failure to adjust might result in a backlash where you do go back to those reactionary, right-wing, tough on crime, war on drug type policies. So here's that.
Her overall point is you have some cities on the West Coast emulating the Portugal model without really knowing all the facts and knowing that the Portugal model as it exists today is not working. That
of course
the good numbers are from what they were doing before. That's
and on top of that, I don't claim to be an expert in this particular issue, but I can say I suspect that almost all of these cities do not have the social services in place that Portugal had at the beginning. Right.
She makes that point too. She talks about how they have universal health care.
Right. They have health care.
Social support services that we don't have.
Exactly. All right. So here she is.
I think Portugal's model is promising. It shows that it worked. They made some changes beginning in 2012, and those changes were not positive ones. They did not have a positive impact, but that's okay. Clearly they're reversing course, and I'm excited to see how the numbers change now that they're going back to a centralized government model.
Going back to a centralized government model, not going back to throwing people in prison, right? According to what she's saying. She's saying going back to a centralized government model where the social services are kept in-house, right?
Takes care of the services associated with their drug policies instead of kind of outsourcing them to these nonprofits. But the point that I'm trying to make here is sometimes you have to adapt to the situation changing. And clearly the situation changed in Portugal. And if we're going to point to Portugal as a success story, if we're going to implement Portugal's policies in US cities and use Portugal as an inspiration, we just got to make sure that we implement it correctly. Because my fear is if we don't, if the policies fail, the pendulum will swing in the opposite direction, and we need to prevent that from happening.
Okay, so that certainly corroborates.
Sounds pretty left.
On Twitter, where she put this was an additional reply to her first retort. So yeah, first she puts this out. I read this one already. This next tweet was below that one where she says, the whole point of the video was how Portugal's decriminalization policies were a success until the government cut funding for rehab/outsource work to nonprofits. Either you have issues with basic comprehension or you're a liar who's mischaracterizing things. It's both for Lance. That's true. That's true. Again, look, I don't claim to know this issue inside and out in order to take a side as to like how much of everything she's saying I agree with. That's not the point. The point is the guy clearly saw an opportunity to pounce and do a drive-by smear, which is in keeping with what that faction of the left has always done. Part of where they learned to do that, ironically, was by watching TYT, which is why I don't feel too bad for Anna or Cenk, because they made their bed. They're laying in it a bit, you know. But that's what's going on.
Peterson said it best.
Right.
Your children are hungry and you're on the plate.
And you're on the plate. Indeed. Indeed. But then, you know, she got a lot of replies, obviously. So we're going to go to Twitter right now, and I'll show you just a little bit of the response that she got here and her subsequent replies to them. So as you can see here, I'm unable to view the tweet because I'm logged in as DueDissidence now, and I've blocked by the Serfs, so I can't read the tweet she's quoting. But this is the tweet we just showed you a few minutes ago. In response, Mort Red says, "What Tim Pool debate will follow? That Tim Pool debate, pardon me, will follow him for quite some time. What about meth? Yeah, embarrassing. No other word to describe it," says Anna. And then Defy Lies said, "You and Lance had the same take on abortion, though." So then she quote tweeted that and says, "No, we do not have the same take on abortion. I do not agree with the notion that a woman should be able to terminate a healthy pregnancy at 9 months. Almost no one believes that except for Lance." And then she tweets separately out, "We are not winning with this kind of foolishness." We'll play this.
That's not true.
Hold on. Colorado legalized abortion in up to 9 months with no medical reason required. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that decision.
Yeah, I agree with that decision. Now, she says he agrees with that. This goes back to her original tweet where she said, either he's lacks basic comprehension skills or he's a liar. I don't know that Lance actually agrees with aborting a 9-month baby that's viable and healthy. He might just say that for the same reason he says anything, which is he knows how to stay on the good side of the sort of very, very woke cultural left. And he knows what he knows what risks he can and cannot take in terms of pissing them off, right? That's why they're so knee-jerk on all these other issues. That's why this whole thing started not when Anna started chirping about crime in Los Angeles and started speaking highly of Rick Caruso, which is something that I absolutely took issue with her at the time, right? What set these guys off was her asking to be called a woman. That was the red
straw
line
that
for
broke
these
the
guys.
camel's back.
Past that point, they could
that
not
says
oblige.
it all. That
Right.
says it all. Because she's taken somewhat conservative positions on various things over the years, and more so recently. And here and there was some commentary on it, but they lost their fucking minds when she said she wanted to be called a woman. Like that was it. That was the end.
And it's the same level of analysis, the same level of engagement, the same level of argument on this than it was on that, right? There's a chyron that says, has decriminalization backfired? And they take that to mean, oh, well, that means she wants to lock the drug addicts up. What a right-wing, racist, anti-poor, punitive person she is. Same thing as when she says, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to give hormone therapy or gender-affirming surgery to minors, right? We're just talking about minors. We're not talking about, grown people, right? We're talking about people under 18. Their reaction to that is the same thing. Well, you're a bigot, you're a reactionary, you're denying people's existence, right? That's the only level they're comfortable engaging on. And so it makes perfect sense if they react to that in that way. They would react to this chyron about this segment that way. And that, they would engage on the level that they do. It's the only level they're capable of engaging on, which is why now that they have cut TYT off, I'm telling you, you are going to see that faction of the left just melt away. It already is melting away. Olay has quit the leftist mafia show. She says it's not because of a beef with them. It's just because she can't deal with the drama anymore. Yeah, right. Right. They're being exposed for the hypocrites that they are, very shallow, superficial, uninspired, uncritical idiots that they've always been. They have nothing to say. They have no message, right? They have no reason to exist in this alternative media space anymore. What agenda are they pushing forward? What goals are they actually pushing forward? The only thing they serve to do is to jump down people's throats when they feel they've caught them in something that they can nail them for. And they play those cute little games like that. And now you have Anna, who used to do the very same thing. Now she's starting to push back on it. Can they sustain that? Can they survive that transformation? Right? I don't think so.
I don't think so, particularly because they're so fucking repulsive. What they believe is repulsive. They're at it. Looking at how this is developing, where she turned around and took on the 9-month abortion thing. It reminds me of the Simpsons line, as somebody had to say it. I can't believe it was her. Anna seems to be taking it upon herself now that she's stepped in it to just go all the way and take on this core assumption that you've had amongst so much of that faction of the left, that these ideas are self-evident and not to be questioned. She's taking that on, and she's interrogating these core beliefs that minors should be given puberty blockers on demand on whatever shit they said that morning about what their gender is. That,
right. On the second doctor's visit, they should have a surgery.
Right. There shouldn't be gatekeeping. Right. And it looks like she's going to go all the way into that territory. I mean, this whole safe space language is violence, which I'm thinking more and more was kind of the the core belief from which all of these beliefs sprung. This whole personality style springs from the belief that language is violence. Therefore, if language is violence, then expressing beliefs is a form of assault. You look at the whole way that they behave, that's the core belief that they have in common. She really, underneath it all, is really going after that. She's going after this whole constellation of woke assumptions that, yes, TYT had more to do with spreading those ways of expressing yourself in the online left than anybody else. This is definitely their children coming for them.
Yeah.
So who wins that fight? Yeah, TYT has the money, they have the visibility, they have the subscriber base, and none of these people are particularly talented.
Please clap.